Well, hey all, I've got a special video I want to share with you guys. I'm getting ready to head to the Model Club meeting tonight. What's cool about this meeting tonight is it's a show and tell meeting. There's going to be everything from cars to military to planes, anything and everything. It's a big show and tell meeting. It's the Military Modelers Club. It's a Louisville chapter. We're located in Louisville, Kentucky. Here's their Facebook page. Let's go check this meeting out. It's going to be really neat. You'll enjoy it.
Part of Pegaso figures, and platoon went into 135th scale, and not all of them are great, but this one I liked it. And I had the base done for like 5 years. I finally got the figure done during COVID. This is the Tamiya Horch 1A with the crew. I really liked the crew, but I did manipulate some of their arms and I replaced all their heads. But for a sit-down crew in a soft skin, they're excellent for Germans. I used AK camouflage set to paint their smocks, and the trailer is an Italeri trailer, value gear stowage. This one, I wanted to do a what if tank, and Brian had just gotten in some of the Model Collect Fist of War, and built that, and I want it to be showing like the last, like if the war extended on. This is like 1946 defense of Berlin, and I added the little cage in the back, or not cage, but the little barricade in the back, so and machine guns there. The only thing I need to finish is the commander's. I need to finish painting his uniform and put some decals on it. That was a lot of fun. I tell you what's fun about the what ifs is there's no particular paint scheme you have to adhere by, and I found it quite enjoyable. Matter of fact, I bought so many what if kits I need to start building a bunch of them. I wanted to do an ambush scheme, but I didn't want to use those stencils because some of those stencils, it's hard to get down and get exact clear lines, in my opinion. So I took I was looking for a hole punch, and then I realized hole punch isn't going to work because it didn't have varying discs. So I got on Amazon and I found some leather hole punches, and they had 6 different sizes. The nice thing about them is you can keep them sharp by just filing them. But I put out Tamiya tape on a mat and just poked holes for about 3 hours and about 4 beers of Dos Equis, which is excellent. And got the pattern I wanted, and I thought it turned out pretty nice. And David with Tactical Notes was contacted by the editor of the IPMS Canada journal, and he wanted to publish the article, so we had to change some wording, or not wording, but spelling of terms like armor. Had to get it into the, you know, yeah, favorite, you know, all that weird stuff. And they published it. So, and then Brian gave me this Tamiya sticker, and I had a clear photo thing at home. I thought I'd put that sticker on the bottom, and it's going to make for a nice little display. It's the 2nd SS in Russia, and this is a front section of a Tamiya Panther that it was already built by somebody. I don't even know who, but I took it all apart, rebuilt it, added Zimmerit, added other details to it, and then I chopped it into 3 pieces. The other 2 pieces are going to be in vignettes later. And got the these are all Warriors figures, which are excellent molds, and let's just want to do a little vignette on the Eastern Front.
There was only, I guess, about 5 of them that the coalition forces split up, and they all had minor differences, and that's I always like the T-55, but especially this one just because of the look. And then this one here is the Trumpeter Cub radar units. It's like a 1960s deal. Some of the Eastern Bloc countries still use them. What they do is they run their SAM 6s units, and it was kind of a neat little kit here. This here is just a 1/16 scale tank girl that I wanted to highlight with classic hobby barrels and jerry cans, and then some old Valinden boxes. I just tried to make a little display, but the girl is more the center point. And then this here is this is the Rebel Land Rover turned into a Mad Max theme, post-apocalyptic. And I just found a bunch of stuff in my scrap bin and just kept adding what worked and what didn't, modified, and then just decided to use for the background this new AK crackle effect just to see how it worked.
A
And
little cheap Tamiya tank. It's the Bulldog. I just kind of built it straight out of the box. And then
Tim, I don't want to interrupt you. I just mentioned it to Zach here. We were talking about that. That's a Hobby Lobby, maybe $10
Yep.
kit, right?
Yep.
And that's one of the things that, you know, when you come to the workshop here, that you have a fellowship of modelers. Now, when you, an inexpensive kit, it comes down to how you finish, the colors you choose, the markings, you can do so much in that to resurrect something out of something that's so. But that probably is the most inexpensive, one of the most inexpensive Tamiya kits out there.
Yep.
You know, excellent paint, you know, shading, the dust buildup and weathering. So just wanted to point that out. That
Thank
in this club, it's not about spending a lot of money to the guy over here on the table, but.
so I kind of
$12 in SRI.
keep digging your holes.
$12.
Up the game. So Brian said get this KV1. It's all new tooling. It was pretty cool. I liked it. It was built straight out of the box. So I'm kind of hooked on tanks. And so so I picked up these little Model Collect walking tanks. They're pretty cool. Some of them don't fit too good, so you can add some weld seams and add some plastic in to make it fit better. I added a whole bunch of bolt detail on all of them, but actually on both of them. So other than that, they're built out of the box. So I picked up this little guy. It's a Tamiya, and wanted to try a winter camo scheme, and that was my winter camo scheme.
So I just had this Tiger one early, initial production in my stash, and I thought, well, what the heck, I'll try that. And it's an amazingly detailed little kit. It pretty much out of the box. I added some details here and there, wiring on the lights and the smoke dischargers and things like that. But the interesting thing about just reading about the tanks, the first batch of Tigers in northern Russia, they all broke down, the transmission problems, and they rushed them to the surface with no spares. It was a real disaster, which they later fixed a lot of things on. But anyway, pretty much out of the box, a little bit of evergreen strip here and there for a couple things. And the Archer dry transfer flag there on the back air recognition panel, it's on this piece of foil. Then you can, once you get on the foil, you can drape it down or wash over it. It gives you that good something. Another Dragon kit, the SDKFC 263 8-rad radio wagon, Africa Corps, 1942 or so. I had a Black Dog resin kit I come into somewhere and used some of those things on here, the spare tires and some value gear here and there. Basically, pretty much out of the box. Oh, these are all Pricer miniature figures. I happen to have a set of those laying around. They're some of the best 72nd scale figures from a detail standpoint. So this guy's a Pricer figure here and there, but this guy is an Andrea figure. They came out with this guy in 72nd, 48th, and all the way up, but I had a 72nd figure laying around the shop. So
This is a 1/44 scale Skyhawk. I bought it over there, Brian. Remember this one? And I had some little chips of photo etching here and there. I added to the cockpit there, but I barely can see it. So the real challenge here was thinning down all those parts in order to respect the scale, because it's such a tiny airplane, right? And also do the correct weathering, not to exaggerate that much. But I think I did like, and I put this kit together in 2 days. It was very quick to build, very nice. I like it. This is the Tamiya 1/48 scale 0. This is a special edition from Tamiya because it's based on the movie, exactly the Japanese movie. And I added some cannons here using metal tubes. The cockpit is very, very detailed, but you can see I put some safety belts there and some small photo etching there. I did like the kit. It's very good. It's very easy to be built. It's a Tamiya kit. You don't have to use putty. I hate that part, so I just do dry fit, and that's it. So I leave it away right there. 1/72 scale Hawker Typhoon air fix kit. Another one that's a brand new releases. I put some magnets here to hold the bombs in place. It's very nice. It's very easy, neat.
Play with it and walk it.
Yeah, so you just go there and we'll go like this, right? Okay. Easy kit to build, very nice. I did some weathering here and there with some watercolor pencils here to add some chipping here and there. In this case, I used like a sponge, the sponge technique, instead of using the chipping effect that you sold me another day. And this one was very good, by the way. And this is the 1/72 scale Revell Germany Junkers 88. I did have a lot of work on this guy here because this part of the airplane here, it gave me a lot of work to, you know, fit in there without having any kind of gaps. I did some details inside the you know, the landing gear wheels here, there. And the airplane, it's very nice, and the cockpit is very, very detailed. However, after you finished, after you close the thing, you don't see anything. So it's such a shame. But I put some safety belts there. I put the antenna wire there and used some.
Great.
Yeah, some stuff. I like this kit. And that.
Sherman Easy 8 Tamiya kit. Still in the process of working on it. Just bought some more stuff from it for Brian the other day. Went to put the front light guards on, and of course one went ping, and I found it after I knelt on it. Well, I was looking for it, so I crushed it. So I bought some aftermarket from him, which are not on it yet. Didn't turn out quite as well as I liked because I tried to do the weld seam on top of the turret. It didn't turn out the way I liked, but I made the attempt at it, and you're not going to learn if you don't make the attempt. Sure. My wife kind of crushed my feelings when she said it was cute.
Here's the Revell B17G, which I'm doing in the Sentimental Journey, and will be pretty much all bare metal foil. I'm working on that one. In fact, I need to get some more foil from Brian. This 41 Packard here, I'm also doing for the World War II theme. That's going to be General MacArthur's Packard. I also got a 35th scale figure of him and his Filipino mistress, which he had during the war. Hey, that's what Google said. So, but actually, there's two things related here to Philippines, which kind of is personal to me because that's where my wife's from. The B-17 there, I think its first flight, it finished out World War II in the Pacific, and then when the war ended, it got converted to a reconnaissance plane and stationed at Clark Air Force Base in Manila.
Now, is that one of your specials with all foil?
Yes.
Pressed on?
Yes.
That's premium.
The only thing I did with chrome, with the chrome pin that I'm doing, is the little window areas here and some of the edges here that are compound curves, and you really can't tell the difference. I did try and experiment on a big part of fuselage, and I also experimented on rubbing a little bit, and as you can see, it does dull pretty good. That was just an experiment I was doing, so the chrome does dull. Now the aluminum does not. If it leaves a fingerprint, you just brush it right off.
Is a very nice article discussing Ramses and his times and why most scholars think he was the pharaoh of the Exodus, and his family, and the Egyptian army and their weapons and equipment, and how much fun I had, sarcastically put, assembling this thing. However, that article sits in somebody's computer. It hasn't been published yet, so I'll just have to wait. Just a couple comments on this. I had taken the Brett Avant's course from Sabo Miniatures on how to paint these things. I got all excited and I decided to pull this thing off the shelf, opened it, and realized that I had probably made a big mistake. This thing is all metal. It's 120 metal parts and 16 photo etch parts that are all just thrown in there, and you have no idea what goes where. So I figured, okay, well, You know, I build wing nut wing kits. The instructions are detailed. So I got the instructions here. The instructions are a page and a half. Half of it is in Spanish. So you're in trouble. Basically a couple photographs and, you know, good luck with
Make
that.
it look like this.
So,
Well, you cracked the code, Doc, because you did.
so the other thing is, I mean, it comes with the stand and all the stuff that goes in the stand. Now, you would think, for the amount of money that I spent for this, that they would at least have the decency to drill some holes for the pegs for the horses and the pegs for the chariot.
You're a mopper.
No, they give you a template that you're supposed to put on there, and all they tell you is what's going to happen if you screw it up. Because it's pressed wood, and if you chip it and break it, we can't help you. So you better be real careful.
So did
And
you use like high-speed bits, or what did you, low-speed, or what did you do?
we did, well, they recommended masking over where you're going to drill so you don't chip it too badly. And low-speed drill. I wish I had one of those, whatever they call them.
Press.
Didn't have it. Did the best I could. Basically, I there was some chipping. I rattle canned it afterwards with some, to me, a black lacquer that came out. The other thing with this is most people who have built these have put things on his mat. Some people have painted him in his chariot with the bow and arrow, or him, they call it the smiting pose, where he's holding some captives and going to beat them on the head with a mace. Highly detailed. I can't do that. So I thought about it, and I figured the easiest thing that you could do is make some decals of something relatively simple. And the way this works is Pharaohs actually had 5 names. They had a birth name, which was always in a cartouche, which is this one, which is Ramses, the son of Ra. And they had this one, which is his coronation name. He gets that name after he's crowned Pharaoh. And that one was basically, there was Justice and Ray. That was his coronation name. Then they have 3 titles. They have a Horus name, they have what is called the 2 ladies name, and they have the Golden Horus name. And I figured it was easy enough to find those online, so I made decals of his titles and stuck that on the mat. So it worked out well enough that, you know, yeah, he's standing on them, but you can see them and you can sort of make out what they represent.
And he looks like Yul Brynner. That's pretty
And this that was going to be the next comment, this is modeled after Yul Brynner. The armor that he used is the one that was in the 10 Commandments. They recommend that you paint his tunic purple. The Egyptians really didn't have purple tunics, and as it was, when they were in battle, they wore scale armor. So this is kind of fanciful. So I just painted it white, which is, in a hot desert, they didn't wear dark clothing, so white basically was it.
Are those geldings?
The loaded question. Yes, if you look closely, there are 2 male horses. And they actually know their names from the descriptions of the battle that he was in. One horse was named Mut is Content. Mut was a goddess, patron goddess of the city of Thebes. And the other is named Victory in Thebes. And they're both males. And yes, you can see that they're well hung in the back. So that's basically this. This is the miniature that we were given to work on when we took the course. And this is a Young Miniatures, it's called the Siege of Bastogne, and it's basically modeled after Winters in Band of Brothers. And we had a day to work on this. We spent most of the time on the face, and some time on the overcoat and the belts and the like, and the M1 carbine, and a little bit on the helmet, but we couldn't get it finished. So it's sort of been sitting there. Noel took me one day to the Heroes shop and where I could get the rest of the paint, and I just decided after I finished that, which this was I started it with acrylics and I just gave up because it was just too hard to try to shade it because it's so flat, so I just used oils to finish it. This one is all acrylics, and I'm just about done with it. One of the things that I did do is everybody was trying to figure out how in the world are you going to get the M1 carbine to sit on his shoulder? Because you really don't have much of an attachment. It's just a tiny little thing, and you just blow on it, and you're going to knock it off. And I decided, well, what I'll do is I just drilled it out, stuck a wire in, and so that when you put this on, basically with a hole in the rifle, it sits on the back, and then it's a lot harder to knock it off. So that worked out pretty well. So this one is basically just about done.
And Doctor, if you won't mind to mention the feature for your on the helmet.
That was what I was going to do next. The spades, which I guess represents the 506th Regiment. These are masks that I guess Ed made these and gave it to those of us who had the kit. And I basically used the masks and airbrushed that, and got lucky. They're pretty much symmetrical and lined up reasonably well. To chip it, basically what you do is you take the green paint and a small little piece of sponge, dip that in the paint, dip it on paper until you get most of the paint off it, and then you just touch the edges of it. It looks like you just chipped off the paint of the spade.
Ken Miles is a personal hero of mine, and I wanted to do that one other than the actual winner, which is Bruce McLaren. Did a little research. The chassis is Ford Corporate Blue and not a satin black like most people would think, so this is accurate. The kit's pretty good, and it should be for the price, but there's a lot of issues with some of the vinyl piping that they use for the brake lines. They don't fit on the pins that they provide and molded into the chassis and other pieces that you attach them to. So I've had to cut them out, super glue bus wire in there at the right diameter, and use that instead. And there's a lot of details that should be there that aren't, like the motors for the fans on the radiator. Those are ferrite beads. I used to work in the electronics industry, and I have a lot of scrap stuff like that lying around that just looks like car parts. So I rifle through, boxes and stuff, and that looks like a voltage regulator or a coil or whatever. So I've incorporated a lot of stuff like that into this. It's got all the brake lines, but failed to have the return lines from the flexible lines back to the master cylinder and stuff like that. So that's going to be added. The only wiring it had was the vinyl wiring that they use for the distributor to the spark plugs. Everything else I've added, and will be attached either to the chassis in the correct spot or the bulkhead where the appropriate attachment points are supposed to be. And the battery, I use I think it's 18 gauge wire, I think, and some little terminals that we used to use to add pins on electronic components. They look like battery terminals to me, so I just crimped them on there and super glued them to make sure they were going to stay. There's a lot of bare metal foil and about 3 different shades of silver. Extensive use of the chrome pin. Other than that, it's a challenging build, but it's about 90% friction fit. So I guess this would make it the most expensive snap together kit ever made. But it is rewarding, and when it gets done, I'll be really happy with it. One of the projects I'm working on next is actually making the spinners, which are the attachment points for the wheels. I'm actually making them function rather than the Phillips head screw that they want to use to attach the wheels into the axles. I'll actually be putting a threaded rod in and a 440 nut attached to the spinner, and they'll be able to be true knockoffs.
Big X Academy Panzer, was it a Czech 35T? It's built straight out of the box. It was brush painted. The figures from Warrior. My bases for the 2 tanks are from Hobby Lobby. I catch the wall decor 50% off or the clearance rack, and I'll snatch a bunch of them up and just put the groundwork over whatever the saying is on there, and they're inexpensive. The second one is Tamiya kits, the French R35, and if you ever had one of those kits where you just smile through the whole process of building and painting, this was it right here. I enjoyed this so much. The camouflage is hand painted. The black line is nothing more than using a sharp, little small black Sharpie to separate the different colors. Both of them were weathered with Tamiya panel liners and a little bit of dusting. The third one is horrible kit. Rodin, it's the C-124. I grew up near RAF air bases in England. I used to see these fly in the 60s, and we're just amazed at them. I got to walk through one as a kid. And so I need to build one, so I bought the Rodin kit, and I shook my head through the whole entire build.
It's not a good kit.
No, there's so much there's gaps and
The best
it's
124
warpage. Yeah,
I've got the Rodin C-123, and it's a pretty nice kit.
yeah, but this one I had a lot of issues with it. I mean, I would never put this in a contest. There's so many different warps and seams in it.
All you gotta do is just write Rodin.
But Rodin on it, yeah.
That's 50 points right there.
But I just love the look of the C-124, having to walk through it as a child.
You may have seen my uncle flying in and out of those.
Yeah, and it brings back memories.
So this is Italy kit, the tanker. I cut the tank apart, put a floor in it, and then I filled it up with any scrap I had laying around. It's value gear and Mang stuff and just anything I could find that was scrap. Built the base out of MDF, added the metal panels on just as add-on armor. That's using the Masterpiece Models corrugator, and that's actual tinfoil. Master box figures that I found that are appropriate for a post-apocalyptic scene. So I got one zombie dude over here. I got a zombie chick on the front that's been eviscerated, and I built all of her innards hanging out because, you know, I was locked down. I call this the Danger Boy Express. This is an idea that Mike Knopfsinger and I had dreamed up years and years ago, and we talked about doing it. And then after he passed, I never got back to it. It's mostly just Vallejo colors, all airbrushed, different, decals and stuff that I had laying around that I stuck on there for the graffiti. We did the live resin minigun on the back end, scratch built the sign, and then just tufts of grass and old barrels and ground cover to do that to make the base. So this is
What's your base made of?
It's all MDF with foam to build up.
Change that to English. What's MDF?
Multi-density, medium density fiberboard.
There you go.
Oh, yeah.
It's
Now.
oh yeah, it's a wood product.
Why did you say that? Wow.
But
You get it wet, it's done.
all right, but you had to layer it to get the contour.
So the upper raised edges are high density foam that I just glued on there and cut to shape and then covered up with all kinds. I mean, there's different ground cover stuff that I had laying around and things that I bought that I wanted to try out. And she's not cooperating.
The Dragon ISU or JSU, whatever you want to call it, 122S. I bought an orange box kit a long time ago because I had the one of the other JSU kits, and I wanted the correct lower hull to build it up. So I had a bad lower hull, but I had the rest of a kit here. So I went ahead and built up the lower hull. You got to add, on the old Imperial kits, you got to add about 2 millimeters to the lower hull to bring it back up to where the tracks are no longer sitting on top of the fenders. So I had to do that, which was a little bit of a challenge because it required in the back as well, a little bit of filling on the bottom as well as filling on the front. But I was able to cover most of it up with mud and dirt, so it doesn't look so bad. The 122S came about in like September, October of '44. When they first started the ISU production with the 152s, they didn't have enough of the 152 guns, so they started putting 122s in them because the original one had the same mantlet as the 152, and it fit right in the cradle. The gun fit perfectly. The I believe it was the D22 cannon fit in there perfectly, but when the Soviets started using them as an ad hoc measure just to put things in the field, they realized they liked the 122 gun really, really well because the 152 had a lot of power, but anything over 1,800 meters, you're not hitting anything with it. But the 122 was an extremely accurate weapon. They really liked it. So by September of '44, the Soviets actually built a purpose-built 122 because the Soviet tankers actually were requesting it. And they were around for Battle of Berlin and watching Poland get burned. Airfix Panther G. Surprisingly, it's a really good kit from Airfix. Really, really good kit. I built the thing straight out of the box. I don't think I added anything to it. Went together really, really well. Well, I guess I did add the figure, I suppose. I dressed it up for an MMH tank built in October 1944 for the Battle of the Bulge. And believe it or not, amazingly, during the Battle of the Bulge, there was other units there in the German Army besides the 1st SS Panzer Division. So I went ahead and marked it up as the 116th Panzer Division. They were the first ones to go up against Bastogne. They get their nose bloodied and bounce back off and go around it. And then pretty much got carpet bombed a couple of days later.
Nice camo.
Yeah, the camo is actually kind of factory specific, time specific, because by the time you got to the Panther Gs, especially the mid-production and late productions, the Germans were all painting them out of the factories, and that's why I put the red oxide around the turret. Obviously they're not going to paint underneath the turret when the turret's over the front and they start with the camo. So I just kind of left some of the red oxide there.
Awesome.
And if you look at some of the pictures of the tanks in Berlin with the turrets on the side, you'll see where the Germans did the same thing as well. You'll see where the turret was sitting at when they painted the tank for the camo scene, and you see the red oxide primer on them.
Awesome. Hey Bill, and we talked about the research you did into this too, is that Germans didn't paint the tank yellow over the red oxide either.
They did.
In thirds painted parts of each of the 3 camo colors to save paint, to save the oxide.
Yeah, to save paint.
Before 44, they were painting the whole thing yellow, right? And
right.
Put the camo.
Yeah, about October, well, probably August, September, the factory started playing around with paint schemes. Initially, they painted everything all dark yellow. They gave it to the troops, and the troops painted whatever they wanted to. They felt they were wasting paint. Maybe the factories were carpet bombed and paint was kind of scarce. So what the factories did was started painting them at the factory, and they quit painting them a base color. So like after September, October 1944, there was no base color of dark yellow, at least on most tanks. You'll see later on like the Yog Tigers, the SDKSEs. A lot of them still had a base color of dark yellow, but the Panthers, Panzer IVs, and a lot of the other combat tanks, Stug 3s, even Henschel still painted dark yellow towards the end there too. But a lot of the factories went to just painting over the red oxide primer with their own specific schemes. And those schemes almost changed almost monthly. So it's kind of hard to keep up with, but luckily smarter people than me had figured it out. The next one is the Tamiya T-72. When I was in Poland, messing around with the Polish Army, they had the PT-91s, and it was neat. It was neat playing around with them and messing with them. So I actually wanted to build one. I wanted to convert it to a PT-91, but I realized the conversion kit for that was probably worth more than what this kit was worth. So I just kind of built it straight out of the box as well, and just added some figures to it.
This one, the engineering, new Airfix kit, like you said, they are pretty easy to build, pretty easy to put together. And it comes with a lot of extra parts, basically to do a few variants. The thing that I use from the Edward, this is the Edward decals that usually they give you like 5 different sets. So I wanted to build, the big beautiful doll, and so I did not use the Airfix decals. Those are basically from the Edwards, the checkers. And I'm still working on the canopy.
Kit. This is the new Airfix kit. No problem with either of them. The Invasion Strike one is the one that was in last month's newsletter. This is the one that's in today's newsletter. I don't know what I'll tell you. These are mostly Airfix. About 5 of them are Airfix. A couple of Lares, a couple of Hasegawas, Tamiya. This one sort of entered the Hasegawa out of the box. And what interested me in it was that the guy who flew it was the first Allied ace of World War II, Polish guy. Okay, so he was the first Allied ace, and went back to Poland after the war. Was promptly arrested, sentenced to be executed, but talked his way out of it at some point and rejoined the Polish Air Force. Okay. So all of these have little backstories that I found. When I say interesting, I mean interesting to me. You may as well put the "to me" on the end of it. So all of them, I've got articles on almost all these that David's already gotten to. You'll see more Spitfire articles. The last one's a little Polikarpov classic airframes kit. Again, it's a classic airframes kit. You know, the struts were too short. You know, things didn't fit well, on and on and on. But if you want a Polikarpov 15.2, that's your choice.
You think they look good, man? Those are hard kits. Very difficult.
They're just more work. You got to sand and clean and fiddle with them and make up a few parts. What I had to do on this one, for instance, was I had to extend the K-band struts. Okay, it's like, wow, why couldn't you have gotten they were 3/32 of an inch short on the back struts? Not even close. Wow. The new Airfix kits, on the other hand, check the box a couple times. Extremely complicated, complete cockpits, which you can't see. The cockpits themselves are kits.
It was a low boy trailer.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the electrical things was on top of the low boy trailer. And this is the bulldozer kit.
The D8.
Yeah, and then that's the Star Wars figure, so I figured Bill.
And that was an award winner, or you had?
I don't know, I can't remember.
Oh, you win so much. It's like-
That is the same paper you get like from Arby's, whatever, and dip it in the water and glue and then drip it over. What I did was I put,
So it's like sandwich
there's
wrap.
nothing underneath it here. What I did was I wrapped a bunch of Reynolds wrap around some cargo stuff, because I don't want to mess with the cargo stuff. I don't want to use it, you know, because we're going to hide it anyway. And I just put the Reynolds wrap on top of it, and it kept the shape. You just wrap the paper on top of this here. So.
With Travis, no substance or old model parts go in.
Yeah, that's right.
Goes in the garbage.
Use it all, right?
Use it all. This truck here is a Limburg kit. This kit sucks. I'll tell you that right now.
Lindbergh says it all.
Yeah. So I went ahead and said, I'm going to do something different, you know. So I added this cargo bed on here and made my own little boxes here. Bring those out, put them on there. So that's real balsa wood. And this is diamond plate styrene, and also all this other stuff styrene on there. And actually won Best of Show at a top 25 contest we were at. And I was like, what? Cool. This here is a Bandai snow speeder. That I cut one of the panels off and added some wiring in there just to give us some more detail. This is the Revell Halo kit, and notice I don't have the gun on it. I took the gun off, and of course I made another cargo box again. And it's an okay kit. It's more like a toy, more or less. It's supposed to be 1/32 scale, and it's not. That's more like 1/25 scale. So, this here is the Italy hillbilly gun truck, and I decided to do something else and make it more like a post-apocalyptic thing. Of course, I got some more cargo back here. Same thing. It's just a. Why waste all the?
Love it.
Why waste all the good stuff covered up and you just make it look like it's covered up? So I call this here the hillbilly monster truck, because I put these 125 scale monster truck tires on there, and I thought it worked out pretty good. And be shocked to me, I entered it in WonderFest and got a silver.
Nice.
Which is amazing. That's a military vehicle in a sci-fi show, and they give me a silver.
That's your bragging rights right there.
I'll get to that in a minute. This here's a Bandai Star Destroyer, and underneath of it is the City Jetta that we got free at WonderFest. There was a bunch of junk that we were making stuff out of, and so I had the Star Destroyer kit, and I said, well, I'll just put it on there. It didn't have the temple; it was broke off, so I found some gun off some tank kit and stuck it on there. And of course, I scratch built the land base. And that is towel grout on there for dirt. This over here is a gaming piece from Warhammer. And the inch is supposed to go the other way around, but I thought it looked cooler this way. And so I just turned them around and I put lights inside of them. I hollowed out the slots there for the exhaust. And I put a light on the inside so you can see inside the cargo box there. And I built a little heel and all made it look kind of like it's a landscape.
Nice.
I think that got a bronze at WonderFest. This here is what I call the USS Louisville. And you can read about all the different things I've done to it. Completely modified it. The warp engines up here are not in the kit like that. That's a piece of straight plastic that you don't see no warp engines. I figured, well,
You mean it's not out of box?
no. So added a bridge from their line.
His box.
Yeah. So the bridge on the real ship.
That thing's gorgeous.
The real ship. I made it into the deflector housing, and I added a photon torpedo launcher on the front. I made a resin copy of the one on the back and put one on the front. And then these here phaser turrets I added are all over the ship. These are some kind of tank shock absorber from some kit. You all might know what it is. I don't. I just said, hey, that looks cool. I'll put that on there. So, but I entered this at WonderFest and I got a silver.
It's out of box.
This here is a Bandai kit from an anime. It's called the girl's name is Bulma, and that's her bike. And his bike transformed to different kind of things, but I liked it in the bike format, so I left it like that.
That does look cool.
I'll get to that last. I don't know. You don't ask their age. You know? This thing in the back here is a TIE fighter. It's a Revell TIE fighter kit that I modified into the Mining Guild TIE fighter. And they're yellow and black. It's off the Star Wars cartoon. I think it's off the Rebels, I think. The emblems on the side of the wings, I masked that off. I painted everything yellow and then masked it off and painted the solar panels black. And it worked out pretty good. They've been using a final template. And there's some seams on here, so I said, I'm gonna fix these seams. I hate dealing with seams. So I just took some yellow vinyl and put it on top of that, so I thought it worked out pretty good. And the base is from a different kit that I just painted gray. I thought, well, it looks like a Zord Destroyer or something. So this here is the tank off of Rogue One, the movie, and it's a gaming piece for one of the Star Wars games, and it's about 1/48 scale. So it's mostly already put together. Just kind of glued some things on it, and these things were just loose and not glued on there. But Stu told me I needed to add some more stuff to it, so I went through here and added some chipping on there with a silver pen. I'm gonna go back and add some more dirt to it.
More weather.
Then I'm gonna put dirt on. Oh, that'd be cool. I would put a flag on here and have the emblem on there, drape over top of that. I might do that. But cool.
Put some space dirt on there.
Yeah. This here, at WonderFest, had this thing called Iron Mauler. We have 4 hours to build something out of a bunch of junk. Mark's been in it before, so was Rob. And if you want to watch this whole thing, Tim's got a video on his YouTube page on Throttle Power. Anyway, my team won this year, so I was proud of that.
Congratulations.
That's the second time my team won, so we were proud of that. So.